It is with great pleasure that we welcome film director, writer, actor, comedian, and playwright Mr. Woody Allen. He joins us to talk about his love of authentic New Orleans jazz. So, first of all, thank you very much for making the time to do an interview with us today.
Oh, sure. I always happy to talk about New Orleans jazz.
My first question, this is kind of a general question. What is it that you like about music?
Well, same as any other human being. It's a automatic kind of primitive response you have. Everybody likes music because it's just unexplainable. It's just one of the, unexplained, unintellectual pleasures of life.
Can you remember the first time you heard traditional New Orleans jazz?
Yes, I can. Mm-hmm. I do. I heard a concert with Sidney Bechet and Claude Luther, and it was in France. I mean, I heard this in New York, but the concert took place in France, and it was I don't know what the occasion was, but it was a live concert that they had recorded.
So, why do you choose to play New Orleans jazz as opposed to other styles? What is it about the style that attracts you?
I just took a particular liking to it when I was a teenager. When I first heard it, there was just something about it that I liked. Maybe it's the direct, emotional, the simplicity of it. It's such a primitive sound, and it's so directly emotional, and it's just warm and pleasurable to listen to when played well. When it is really is authentic and played well. What you hear those commercial Dixieland bands where they play, the same cliched songs at breakneck speeds with, saying nothing with endless drum solos and things. That's nonsense. But when you hear, Buck Johnson or Jelly Roll Morton or King Oliver, those things are, a primitive art form and very, very beautiful.
As opposed to being a serious fan of jazz or just a record collector, you decided to take up the instrument. So I had to ask, what made you want to play yourself?
Well, there are some people that just like to do it after they hear it done. They go watch a baseball game and it's pleasurable and they want to be a baseball player. They go see a detective movie and they want to go be a policeman. And it's the same thing. I mean, I heard the music for a period of time. It was so pleasurable that I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to play it. It's an automatic response.
Can you name a few artists in particular that you especially are fond of?
Well, I became drawn to the reed players of New Orleans. I mean, I love some of the horn players as well, pianists, but it was basically the reed players, Sidney Bechet and George Lewis and Johnny Dodds, Jimmy Newton, Albert Burbank. Uh, that group is probably the strongest group for me.
I read about you going to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival in Louisiana years ago. How did you feel going to the birthplace of jazz?
I loved it. I went down there a few times. I've been to New Orleans actually a number of times and went down there. I played at Preservation Hall. I played street parades. I played in cabarets down there and at the jazz festival. And, for me, it was a sort of an overwhelming experience because it was so rich in history. Again, it would be like a baseball fan going to the Hall of Fame or something and visiting it. I was walking through the streets of the French Quarter and looking at spots that would have no meaning to anyone else, but to me or to a traditional jazz fan, were full of meaning. They were spots where things were recorded, where musicians lived, where they played, and since I knew a lot about it, it was a very rich experience.
Certainly. What is it about the clarinet that drew you to that particular instrument?
It's a good question. It's a hard thing to say because, you know, I was so crazy about the playing of Sidney Bechet and so crazy about the playing of George Lewis uh, and Johnny Dodds, that I just glommed onto that instrument. It could have gone another way. I guess if I was as moved by Louis Armstrong or Bump Johnson, I mean, both of whom I love, but the reed players just struck a chord in me, and I wanted to play like them. I wanted to play do what I heard them doing, and so I went out and bought an old Collins soprano saxophone, and tried to teach myself about how to play it, and from and of course I got to play it quite badly, and I never did get to be a good player. I'm an enthusiastic player and devoted, but I don't really have much talent for it. And from the soprano saxophone, I switched over to the clarinet for the most part because reed players, generally interchange uh, their horns, and then I've been playing it ever since. But I don't practice a ton. I'm not a professional musician all the time. I'm like a Sunday hobby player, the way, I don't know, Paul Newman used to drive sports cars, or somebody plays golf on the weekend, or, I do the best I can. Fortunately, I'm always surrounded by great musicians. The guys in my band are wonderful, and they pick me up all the time when I embarrass myself.
Well, you just mentioned the band, and we've had the opportunity to interview every single member of your band, with the exception of Eddy Davis. And Eddy Davis is certainly someone worthy of discussion. Can you tell us your impression of the legendary Eddy Davis?
Eddy, great banjo player. I ran into him first at Bob Scobie's in Chicago, and I sat in with a band that he was playing in. And then we didn't meet for years. We didn't see each other again until years later in New York. He sat in with a band I was playing with, and he's a great natural musician, just a great musical talent. So on the whole year, you know, does does the banjo, gets a lot of beautiful music out of it.
He's also featured along with you in the documentary Wild Man Blues, and they document you and your band's tour of Europe performing this music. And the Eddy Davis and Woody Allen New Orleans Jazz Band is about to. Is it Eddy?
It's Eddie's band. I mean, I play in it, but he's really the leader and heart and soul of the band, and because I'm a celebrity from the movies, my name means something in the marquee, but I'm just I just really am not the leader of the band. I'm obviously the worst member of the band, as a matter of fact.
Interesting. It does seem like it's billed as different things at different times. But I was going to ask you, you're about to embark on a tour of Europe again: Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, and the Czech Republic. You've had the chance to bring this music to a lot of different countries. What country's crowd have you found to be the most appreciative of this style?
Well, for us, they're all appreciative because when we go there, the only people that we see are the hundreds of people that have bought tickets to the show. So naturally, they're anxious to see us, and they're jazz fans, or maybe some of them see my movies and want to see me. But nevertheless, they do come to hear the music, and so every group seems very appreciative to us. We can only mess it up. I mean, they love us before we start to play. and we really, everybody loves to play so much in the band that we really put out every night, and try and give a great show every night. And so they respond very enthusiastically. We've never had a show that hasn't gone well because the people are appreciative, when they're buying their tickets.
I was going to ask you, when someone goes to see you perform, what is it that you hope the listener gets out of the experience?
Well, we try and play authentic New Orleans music. We don't, cater to an audience, and we don't go for effects or cute little novelties or crowd pleasing things. We play, the music of New Orleans, blues, ragtime, gospel songs, hymns, whorehouse music, parade music, and popular songs that were played, and we try and play it, as best we can do it, the way it was played in New Orleans. We try and play in that style, in the New Orleans traditional style, and we hope that it will have the same, impact on an audience as it had on us.
Do you think that the band pulls the authenticity off?
I think we sometimes pull the authenticity off, yes, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we blow it. We pull it off pretty much because we're trying to, and then once in a while, somebody in the band can screw up for some reason, or we play a song and not quite get it that way. We won't really infuse it with the same kind of ensemble playing that they had, or the same drive that they had, and also we're also limited. What you hear of that music, your hearing when you hear the recordings is the best of it. You're hearing the best of a lot of guys who are absolutely great musical artists. So you hear, the best of Louis Armstrong, the best of Bunk Johnson, the best of Jimmy Noon or Jelly Roll Morton or George Lewis, and we're not in that class. Now all the musicians in the band are wonderful musicians, and compared to me, incredible musicians. But we're not really in that class. We are not Jelly Roll Morton. We're not Funk Johnson. I'm certainly not, George Lewis or Albert Burbank, and so we'll never really get the exact same thing. We do our best to play with enthusiasm and feeling, because what they were selling in those bands was, enthusiasm and emotion, and they could just play one note, one simple note, and it would be full of feeling. You can tell who's playing that single note, without knowing. I mean, if I heard any clarinet player in New Orleans, of the ones that I know, play a single note, I could tell you who it is. The same with the trumpet or the trombone, and but so we'll never get that, because we're not a group of musical geniuses whose recordings have survived over 75 years or something, but do a reasonable job of playing authentic music, and we don't make the mistake of turning into a kind of commercial noise making, striped jacket, straw hat Dixieland band.
Well, you just said commercial noise making, and that kind of reminds me of the general music industry and radio today. And it seems like they neglect a lot of the styles of music that are American roots music. So I was wondering how you personally feel about the state of music today.
Well, I'm not a great fan of contemporary music. I never have been, but that's probably my shortcoming completely. I liked like Tin Pan Alley songs that I grew up with. Always liked the music of Gershwin and Cole Porter and Rogers and Hammerstein, Rogers Hart, Irving Berlin. I felt that was a great era of music. And then when it started to change and music started to become groups of, centering around drums and guitar, and, for me, I lost interest in it. So now I'm sure there's been a lot of wonderful music since 1950, in the last 55 years, 58 years. I'm sure there's been a lot of wonderful music that I'm just not interested in, and it's my loss. But I don't really care because there's a sufficient amount of music that I can spend my lifetime listening to that comes from New Orleans, it comes from big band, it comes from Charlie Parker and Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane and Bud Powell. It comes from classical music and opera, and and the giants of the field, Gershwin and Kern and Porter. There's more than enough music for me to never run out of an endless supply of fabulous music without having to force myself to learn to like music that never connected with me and that came in, I guess in the 1950s.
Well, speaking of the styles, just on a side note, I really love the flamenco music in Vicky Cristina Barcelona.
Yes, it's very pretty. I discovered that, it was all news to me. I discovered that while I was putting the film together and rummaging around in the record piles, trying to find appropriate music to score for the film. It's very beautiful. And as I say, it's something that I didn't know about myself, and was quite lovely.
There's two recordings that feature you. One was done as a trio with you and Eddie Davis and Connell Fowkes with strings, and there's also the Bunk Project. And I've read in a couple of places where you've been reluctant to record your music. I was wondering if there was any particular reason why.
Well, we recorded Wild Man Blues. There's an album called Wild Man Blues, which is a recording of our concert that was documentary. We recorded a little bit. I mean, I don't really like to record very much because I'm not very good. And I don't feel I have anything to add to the lives of people by, immortalizing myself, as a recording artist. I'm happy to play. And if people want to hear us, that's fine. And the other guys can go and record all they want. But I don't feel that I have enough to offer. Every once in a great while, I'm willing to make a recording. As I have over the last, 35 or 40 years, I've really only recorded twice, once with the Bunk Project and once with Wild Man Blues. The thing with Eddie and Connell on strings was just a little experiment we did one day that I don't think came off well at all. And, but we fiddled around with it a little bit just for our own amusement. And I wouldn't count that much as a recording that I care much about. But the Bunk Project has got a couple of nice bands on it, and Wild Man Blues has a couple of nice bands on it. But that's kind of my average, if I record a full concert or a full LP, CD, there's usually a couple of tunes on it that I feel proud of, that I've played well, but most of them I don't think much of.
So, Mr. Allen, when you look back at all the years that you've performed, do you have a favorite memory?
I guess it was the day I stopped performing. It's a hard life to be a cabaret performer. I like making movies. I like writing for the theater and doing most of the things I've done, acting in movies. But or on television is not really very, it's not an attractive way to make a living. But cabarets were tough. I mean, I used to work month after month after month, 7 nights a week in cities all over the country, doing 2 shows every night, staying up very late, and 3 on Friday night and 3 on Saturday night. And, you go on at 1 o'clock in the morning, a couple of nights a week, and many nights, it's cold and rainy, and you don't get a very big audience, and you're going on at 11 o'clock at night, or, and then you finish that job on a Sunday night, and the next day you open another city, and so it was a kind of tough life. So I don't really regret not performing in cabarets. Stand-up comedy is kind of fun, and it would be fun to perform in concerts, but not enough fun for me to do it. I mean, it would be pleasurable to get up in front of a large audience, let's say at Carnegie Hall or something like that, or in the theater, and perform. By perform, I mean tell jokes. But, it's just not, I don't have enough incentive. I mean, maybe before I die, the urge will overcome me so strongly that I'll return and do it again. But I don't think that.
Well, at the current time, you and your band play every Monday night at the Carlyle in New York, and I'll be going to the next one on Monday, which I'm looking forward to. But I was wondering, why is it always Monday nights for all these years?
That happened as a pure accident many years ago. We had to pick a night, and there were a number of clubs in town that had attractions, and the attractions would go on Tuesday through Sunday, and they would be closed on Monday. They wouldn't have any attractions on Monday, so they found that if they put us in on Monday night, which was many years ago now, they could open Monday and get a crowd to come. So they started playing us on Monday nights, and we all sort of set aside Monday night as the night. It's no different than, I don't know, a Thursday night poker game or, whatever. And it just arbitrarily, for us, turned out to be Monday. For the club owners, it made sense. And so we kept it Monday evening. The friends was at the Carlyle, we'll play Monday night. And then Tuesday night, someone like Eartha Kitt will come in, and she'll be there for the whole week and play. She's the real attraction. And we're just there to fill in the Monday evening.
This question came from one of your band members. He wanted to know about the Sleepers soundtrack. He wanted to know, what was that experience like with the members of the Preservation Hall band?
Oh, it was an interesting experience. I went down to Preservation Hall, and I sat in with the players, and we played. I was, as bad as I play now, I was much worse then. And I wish I could do that again, because all those players are now passed on. But I would, it was fun to play in the hall, because it's acoustically a wonderful place to play. And then I supplemented that with the then, but not current, band that I was playing with at Michael's Pub in New York, another cabaret. And we did some of the songs. And it was fun because in New Orleans, I was playing all the tempos that were given to me by the band. They would play their songs, and they played them at the tempos they always played them at. But there were times when, for the scoring of the picture, I would need either a brighter or a slower tempo, and to complement the scene appropriately. And so I had to do that with my own band in New York. I had to say, well, let's play this song, but let's play it, at a much swifter tempo than they played it, because we're using it as chase music or something. But it was fun to do. I mean, I'd love to play the score again. You just have to have the right movie for it. It has to have the right subject matter. so that that kind of music is the appropriate music for the text of the scenario.
Very interesting. One of the things that I've enjoyed about doing this series is it's turned me on to a lot of really great music that is hardly ever played. And I was reading an article that Scarlett Johansson recently did, and she was interviewed. She talked about trying to turn you on to new types of music. So I'm curious as to whether you have tried to introduce her or other actors to these great artists like Sidney Bechet or Jelly Roll Morton, or some of these greats.
Are you asking me if I do?
Yeah, if you try to turn people on, like
there's nothing more obnoxious, I find, than people that try and share their music with you, share their enthusiasms. It never works. I mean, there are people they're frantic and they're so moved by some recording they have, and they collar you and put you down. You say, just listen to this part. Just when do you hear this? When do you hear this? Just this one band, and you listen. It doesn't mean a thing. You can't wait to get out of there. And I feel I'd be doing the same thing. I'd be grabbing someone by the lapels and throwing them down the chair and, playing some Bunk Johnson thing for them or some King Oliver tune. And I'd be wildly enthused over every nuance and every little twist and bluesy turn. And they'd be looking at me like I was nuts. So I spared them that.
Well, I have three final questions. This one question came from Elliot Mintz, who is the publicist of the late John Lennon, and he wanted me to ask you. He said, your most memorable movies involve relationships between men and women. You've managed to find humor in the frail ties of the human heart. How important is humor in the healing process when two people simply run out of love for each other?
Humor doesn't do much. Once you run out of love, somebody's gonna, if not both people, going to do some suffering, and no amount of humor salves that over. It's not a magic healing thing, and it's just unfortunately doesn't do what it's sometimes advertised to do.
It's only funny to the teller. I asked all the people in the band this. You guys get a chance to go around the world and eat some really incredible food. So what is your all-time favorite meal?
Well, it varies, but I'm very happy when I eat in Spain, and I'm very happy when I eat in Italy. But probably I'd rather eat in Spain than any place.
So my final question, the incredible thing about this series is that we have heard from listeners all over the world, and you're about to head overseas with the band, and this broadcast is going out worldwide. So my final question, what would you, Mr. Woody Allen, like to say to the world? What would you like to say to all those people listening in?
Well, I mean, I hope that the people that like this kind of music will come and catch our band, because I think, it's rare to find many people playing this kind of music today. And I think that there's a good chance, I can't guarantee it, but there's a good chance that they will enjoy it because, we are selling an authentic product to the best of our ability. And I think it'd be worth it to many of them to come and listen to it played as it was played in New Orleans. Because you can't get a lot of that today. We're by no means the best in the world at it, but we're not bad either.
Well, Mr. Allen, I thank you very, very much for this interview. It has been a real pleasure to speak to you.
Thanks very much, and